The Texas sun blazed high in the sky as Liam, the rugged and fiercely independent owner of the Wild Ridge Ranch, pulled back on the reins of his black stallion. His chiseled jaw tightened as he watched a truck pull up the dusty driveway, carrying the man who would unknowingly change his life forever. Austin stepped out of the vehicle, his brown hair shimmering under the sunlight and his muscular frame radiating confidence. A skilled horse trainer, he had come seeking a job, but he had no idea he'd find more than just work on this ranch. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, the world seemed to stop. What began as a simple interview turned into something neither of them could ignore. Sparks flew in the unlikeliest of places, setting the stage for a tale of forbidden passion, untamed emotions, and a love story powerful enough to rewrite their lives. But as their connection deepened, so did the risks. Can Liam and Austin navigate the challenges of love in a world that demands silence? Or will their hearts prove stronger than the storm ahead? Stay tuned to uncover this unexpected romance that begins in the open fields of Wild Ridge Ranch. Liam sat high in the saddle, the warm wind brushing against his face as he surveyed the land he had worked tirelessly to build. Wild Ridge Ranch wasn't just a place for cattle and horses, it was his legacy. Every acre, every animal, was a part of him. And yet, on this hot summer day, as his black stallion trotted along the fence line, there was an unsettling feeling gnawing at him, a sense that something was about to change. It was then that he saw the truck in the distance, kicking up dust as it rumbled down the long gravel road leading to his ranch. His eyes narrowed. He wasn't expecting anyone. And he certainly wasn't one to entertain visitors. But as the vehicle drew closer, Liam could see the silhouette of a man inside. His curiosity piqued, and without thinking twice, he nudged his horse forward. The truck came to a slow stop in front of the ranch house, and the door opened. Out stepped a tall, broad-shouldered man. Liam's breath caught in his throat. The man's hair was a tousled mess of brown, and his arms, thick with muscle, flexed as he unloaded his gear from the back. He was every bit the cowboy Liam had imagined, yet there was something different about him, a certain confidence in the way he moved that made Liam's heart race. "Can I help you?" Liam called out, his voice steady but betraying a hint of unease. The man turned and their eyes locked. Time seemed to slow. Austin's deep blue eyes held a certain intensity, and the way he looked at Liam made him feel exposed, like he was seeing through him. Into something deep and vulnerable. Austin smiled, a small but genuine grin, and took a step forward. "I'm Austin," he said, his voice low and smooth. "I'm here about the job. I heard you were looking for someone to help with the horses." Liam studied him for a moment, his pulse quickening. Austin was nothing like the other ranch hands Liam had hired. He had a rugged charm, the kind that came from hard work and a life spent outdoors, but there was also an undeniable edge to him, a quiet confidence that sent a rush of warmth through Liam's chest. "I'm Liam," he said, finally shaking off the magnetic pull in his chest. "Come on inside, we can talk about the job." The two men made their way into the house, where Liam offered Austin a seat at the large wooden table in the center of the room. As Austin sat down, Liam couldn't help but notice the way his jeans fit snugly around his thighs, the muscles in his arms flexing every time he moved. It was impossible not to notice. He quickly looked away, clearing his throat as he grabbed a couple of iced teas from the fridge. "So you're a horse trainer?" Liam asked, his voice betraying a touch of nervousness. Austin nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Yeah, I've been working with horses for years. I know the ins and outs. How to train them. How to calm them, how to get them to trust you." He paused, his eyes softening. "I love it. It's a way of life for me." Liam felt a strange tightening in his chest. He wasn't used to feeling this kind of pull toward someone, especially not a man he had just met. But there was something magnetic about Austin, something raw and real that seemed to mirror a part of him that Liam had buried deep. After a few moments of tense silence, Liam finally spoke. "I think you're just what we need here. I've got a few wild ones that need taming, and I'm not afraid to admit that I could use the help." Austin's lips curved into a faint smile, the kind that suggested both confidence and humility. "I'm your man," he said, voice calm but full of conviction. Liam extended his hand. "Then welcome to Wild Ridge Ranch." As their hands met in a firm handshake, Liam felt an electric spark shoot through him. He quickly pulled his hand back, forcing a smile. "Let me show you around, get you settled in." They walked out into the open air, and as the sun dipped lower in the sky, Liam couldn't help but glance over at Austin. The man's presence seemed to fill every space around him. Every corner of the ranch. Liam had seen many men come and go in his life, but none had made him feel the way Austin did. He didn't understand it, didn't know what was happening, but deep down he felt it was only the beginning of something that would change everything. As they made their way to the stable, Austin looked over at Liam with a small smile, and for a moment, the world seemed to fall away. The connection between them was undeniable, a thread that pulled them closer with each passing second. Little did Liam know, this was just the start of a journey that would force him to confront emotions he had never allowed himself to feel, and a love that could either heal or destroy him. The air inside the ranch house was cooler than outside, but it did little to ease the heat that simmered between Liam and Austin. As Liam poured 2 glasses of iced tea, he couldn't help but steal glances at the man sitting across from him. Austin was silent for the most part, but his presence filled the room, a quiet force that seemed to demand attention without even trying. "So you're a horse trainer?" Liam asked, trying to keep the conversation light. He handed Austin one of the glasses, his fingers brushing against Austin's hand for a brief moment. A spark of electricity shot through him, and he quickly pulled his hand back, focusing on the glass in his own hand instead. Austin nodded, taking a slow sip of his drink. "Yeah, grew up around horses, been working with them since I was a kid." His eyes briefly flickered to Liam's, his gaze intense. "I've trained a lot of horses, but what I'm really good at is knowing them. The way they think, how to communicate with them." Liam raised an eyebrow, impressed. "Sounds like exactly what I need. The horses here aren't just any animals. They're part of the heart of this ranch. If you can get them to trust you, I'm all in." Austin's lips curled into a half smile. "I can get them to trust me." There was something about the confidence in Austin's voice that made Liam's heart race. It wasn't just the words, it was the way Austin said them, with a quiet assurance that made Liam feel as if he could trust this man with anything. The same trust he placed in the horses under his care, a trust that he rarely gave to anyone else. Liam cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "I'll show you the stables later. I've got a few horses that need someone who can really work with them." Austin nodded, his expression softening. "I'd like that." For a moment, the room was filled with nothing but the sound of their breathing. It was a strange, charged silence, one that made Liam feel both exposed and drawn to the man sitting across from him. There was a magnetic pull he couldn't explain, a connection that ran deeper than just a potential employer-employee relationship. "Why'd you come all the way out here for this job?" Liam asked, breaking the silence. It was a simple question, but it felt heavy with unspoken curiosity. Austin was a man who seemed to carry a certain weight about him, something Liam couldn't quite put his finger on. Austin hesitated for a moment, his eyes darkening. "I needed a change," he said quietly, the words laced with a sadness that made Liam want to reach out and ask more, but he held back. "I've been working with horses for a long time, but sometimes it feels like it's not enough. Like I'm looking for something that I can't quite find." Liam's heart skipped a beat. The vulnerability in Austin's voice made him want to reach out, to offer comfort, but he knew better than to cross that line. He barely knew the man, yet he felt an undeniable pull toward him, as if their fates were somehow intertwined. "Well," Liam said, forcing himself to stand, "if it's work you're looking for, I think you'll find it here. And if you're looking for something else, maybe this place can offer that too." Austin's eyes lingered on Liam for a moment longer than necessary, and there was something in that look, something so deep and full of meaning, that made Liam's pulse quicken again. He quickly turned away, trying to mask the heat spreading across his face. "I'm ready to get to work," Austin said, his voice low and steady, as if grounding both of them back in reality. Liam nodded, relieved to break the tension. "Let's get you to the stables then." As they walked outside, the sound of the horses in the distance seemed to echo the unease and excitement brewing between them. Liam led the way, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't quite make sense of. Every step he took toward the stables, every breath of fresh air, felt like he was moving toward something he couldn't escape. Something that had already begun to change him. When they reached the barn, Liam turned to Austin. "This is the place. I hope you're ready." Austin grinned, that same quiet confidence returning to his features. "I was born ready." Liam couldn't help but admire him, the way Austin's presence seemed to fill the space. The way he looked at the horses as if he could already hear their thoughts. But there was also something about Austin's gaze that made Liam feel exposed, as if Austin could see right through him. And in that moment, with the horses grazing peacefully nearby, Liam realized that he might not be ready for what was to come. But no matter how hard he tried to resist, he knew that something had already started between them, a connection that was impossible to ignore. It was only a matter of time before they both gave in. The afternoon sun was beginning to set when Liam finally led Austin to the stables. The ranch was alive with the soft sounds of hooves and the faint rustling of the wind through the tall grass. Austin's eyes seemed to drink in the scene as if it were something he hadn't seen in years. As they approached the barn, Liam could feel Austin's gaze on him, steady and unwavering, but there was something else in his eyes, a vulnerability that hadn't been there before. "Here," Liam said, opening the large wooden door to the stables. The familiar smell of hay, leather and horses greeted them, a scent that always made Liam feel at home. He stepped aside, motioning for Austin to enter. "These are my horses. Each one has a different personality. Some are stubborn. Some are wild. But all of them are special." Austin stepped inside, his eyes scanning the stalls, each horse seeming to recognize the man's presence. He walked over to one of the horses, a sleek chestnut mare named Lady, and ran his hand along her neck with a tenderness that made Liam pause. There was something in the way Austin moved, so calm, so sure, that made the horses respond to him instantly. "Lady's temperamental," Liam said, his voice softer than usual. "She'll only let you get close if you earn her trust. I've tried working with her, but—" Austin cut him off, his voice low and steady. "Let me try." Liam watched in silence as Austin moved toward Lady, his posture confident but relaxed. He spoke to the horse in a language Liam couldn't understand, something soft and rhythmic. The mare, who had always been a bit skittish around strangers, began to settle, lowering her head in submission. Within moments, she was nudging Austin's hand, as if accepting him. Liam's heart raced. He'd never seen anyone do that before. Not with Lady, and certainly not with the same ease that Austin had. The man was a natural, and there was something deeply magnetic about the way he interacted with the animals. "That was impressive," Liam said, his voice barely above a whisper. He was still trying to process the way Austin had handled the situation, but the moment felt charged with something more than just admiration for his skill. Austin turned to him, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I told you I knew how to communicate with them. It's all about listening." The way he said it, the intensity in his eyes as he looked at Liam, made Liam feel as though he weren't just talking about horses anymore. There was something more, something unspoken hanging between them, something that neither of them could ignore, even if they tried. Liam cleared his throat, trying to break the sudden tension that had built up in the air. "You can start tomorrow," he said, his words coming out more abruptly than he intended. "We'll get you settled into one of the rooms in the guest house." Austin nodded, but his eyes never left Liam's. The moment stretched on for what felt like an eternity, and despite the heat of the day, Liam felt a chill run down his spine. He was aware, painfully so, of how close they were standing, the proximity of Austin's body sending sparks of awareness through him. It was the kind of closeness that made his pulse quicken, his thoughts scatter. Before Liam could say another word, Austin took a step forward, closing the space between them. The air around them seemed to hum with tension, charged and thick. Austin's breath was warm against Liam's skin, and for a moment, neither of them moved. "You know," Austin said softly, his voice low and steady, "I don't just know how to work with horses." Liam's heart skipped a beat. The way Austin said it, the meaning hidden beneath those simple words, made Liam's breath catch in his throat. He wanted to respond, to say something, anything, but he found himself frozen in place, his mind racing with questions he wasn't ready to answer. Austin stepped back slightly, breaking the spell, his eyes flickering to the ground. "I should get some rest. Long drive today." Liam nodded, trying to collect his thoughts. "Yeah, of course. I'll show you to your room." They left the stables together, but the silence that followed was heavy. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between them. Something deeper, something more complicated than he had ever anticipated. And as they walked back toward the main house, the weight of it settled in his chest, pulling him toward a future he wasn't sure he was ready for. The morning sun cast a warm, golden light over Wild Ridge Ranch as Liam worked through his chores, his mind unable to shake the thoughts of Austin. The way he had handled the horses with such ease, the quiet strength that radiated from him, it had left an impression on Liam, one he couldn't quite shake. Austin was unlike anyone Liam had met, and as the day stretched on, it became harder to ignore the strange pull between them. By mid-morning, after tending to the cattle in the barn, Liam decided it was time for a ride. He hadn't seen Austin ride yet, and he was curious. Curious about his skills, but also about how it would feel to share something so familiar with this man who seemed so new to his world. "Austin," Liam called, walking toward the stables where Austin was brushing down a horse. "How about a ride?" Austin looked up, his expression unreadable, but there was a glimmer in his eyes. He stood up, tossing the brush aside, and gave a small nod. "Sounds good." Liam led him to the paddock, where the horses were saddled and waiting. He chose his black stallion, a horse he'd ridden for years, and handed Austin a reins to a chestnut mare that had a reputation for being a bit difficult with new riders. Austin met the horse's gaze, sizing her up for a moment, then moved toward her with a calm confidence that made Liam's heart skip a beat. There was something magnetic about the way Austin moved, a grace that went beyond just being skilled. It was as if he belonged here, as if the ranch was a part of him. With a few practice moves, Austin mounted the mare, and Liam felt a jolt of anticipation course through him. He didn't know why, but seeing Austin on a horse, this man who was already stirring something inside of him, Felt like the beginning of something he couldn't control. They rode out together, heading into the wide expanse of the ranch, the sounds of hooves against the dirt the only soundtrack to their journey. Liam kept his pace steady, his black stallion trotting alongside Austin's mare. The sun warmed their backs, and the world seemed to shrink down to just the two of them, surrounded by the open fields, with nothing but the quiet hum of nature around them. At first, they rode in silence. The wind tugged at Liam's shirt, and the rhythm of their horses' movements kept his thoughts in a steady beat. But as the ride stretched on, Liam couldn't help but steal a glance at Austin. There was something about the way he sat on the horse, relaxed but alert, completely at ease. Every movement was deliberate, controlled, and it made Liam's heart race faster than it should have. Liam slowed his horse, allowing Austin to pull up beside him. For a moment, the only sound was the soft snort of the horses, the world stretching out before them. "You ride well," Liam said, his voice quieter than he intended. "You've got a good touch with horses." Austin met his gaze, his eyes dark and unreadable. "It's all about trust," and he replied, his voice calm but with a hint of something deeper, something that made Liam feel like Austin wasn't just talking about horses anymore. They shared a brief, lingering silence, and in that moment, it felt like the connection between them deepened. Not just in the way they worked together with the animals, but something intangible, something electric that neither of them could ignore. Liam felt his breath catch, his pulse quickening. As they continued their ride, the landscape opened up before them, a vast sea of green fields, the gentle rise and fall of the land stretching out to the horizon. Liam realized, with a strange clarity, that this was the moment that would change everything. What had started as a simple job interview, a passing interaction, had transformed into something far more complicated and more dangerous. They rode on, the unspoken tension growing with every passing second, as if the distance between them on horseback was all that kept them from something they both knew was inevitable. Something they both feared yet couldn't stop. The day was beginning to wane, and the sky was painting itself in hues of orange and pink as they rode deeper into the hills, the world stretching out in all directions. The further they went, the more Liam felt himself slipping into a rhythm with Austin, as if the silence between them wasn't a barrier but a connection, a shared understanding that neither of them could put into words. The sounds of the ranch, the distant calls of animals, seemed to fade away as the two men rode side by side. Liam's mind was racing, but the feeling in his chest was something he couldn't explain. It wasn't just admiration for Austin's skill, nor was it simple curiosity. It was something far more complicated, something deeper. The pull he felt toward this man was undeniable, and as much as he tried to push it away, the more it anchored itself inside him. "Austin," Liam said, his voice barely rising above the sound of hooves. "You're a natural." Austin glanced at him, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "You're not so bad yourself." Liam chuckled, but there was a flicker of something in Austin's gaze, something that made the air between them heavier. They both slowed their horses as they crested a hill, overlooking the sprawling valley below. The land seemed endless, and for a moment, they were both lost in the beauty of it all. The sunset stretched out before them, painting the sky with vibrant shades of orange, purple and gold. It felt like a painting, too perfect to be real. The world was quiet, almost sacred, and Liam found himself pulling his horse to a stop, giving Austin the space to do the same. The horses snorted and shifted, but the two men remained still, their eyes locked on the horizon, the silence between them thick with something unsaid. "Austin," Liam said again, his voice quieter this time, as if testing the waters. "I don't know what it is about you, but there's something about the way you make everything seem so easy. So natural." Austin didn't respond right away. He just stared out at the view, his jaw clenched as if he was holding something back. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost vulnerable. "I don't make things easy, Liam," Austin replied, his gaze not leaving the horizon. "I've spent most of my life running from things, people, feelings." Liam's heart skipped a beat at the unexpected honesty. He hadn't expected Austin to open up like that, not so quickly. But there was a rawness to his words, something Liam could relate to more than he wanted to admit. He wasn't sure what he had expected from Austin, maybe a simple reply, maybe a laugh to brush it all off, but the weight in Austin's voice told him that this wasn't just a casual conversation. The air between them grew thick with tension, something unspoken, and Liam knew that they were standing on the edge of something important, something that neither of them could back away from. Without thinking, Liam dismounted his horse, feeling the urgency of the moment pull him in a direction he hadn't anticipated. Austin didn't move at first, his eyes studying Liam with a mixture of confusion and something deeper, something that made Liam's heart race. Liam took a step forward, his breath shallow, and in that moment, everything seemed to slow down. There were no words left to say, no excuses to make. The connection between them had become undeniable, the pull between them so strong that Liam couldn't fight it any longer. He reached out, his hand brushing against Austin's arm. The touch was electric, sending a wave of heat through both of them. Austin looked at him then, his expression torn, but it didn't matter. There was something in Liam's eyes that made Austin step closer, his body moving without hesitation. And then, as if they had been waiting for this moment all along, their lips met. The kiss was slow at first, tentative, like testing the waters. But as the seconds passed, it deepened, the fire that had been smoldering between them bursting into something hotter, more urgent. Austin's arms wrapped around Liam, pulling him closer, and Liam responded without thinking, his hands tangling in Austin's hair, their bodies pressed together in the fading light. The kiss felt like everything Liam had ever been missing, a connection that went beyond the surface, something raw and real. He could feel Austin's heartbeat against his chest, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt right. They broke apart slowly, their breaths heavy, but neither of them moved away. They stood there, inches apart, eyes locked, both of them still reeling from the intensity of what had just happened. Liam's heart was pounding in his chest, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't think it would be like this, Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. Austin looked at him, his eyes darker now, his expression serious. Neither did I. For a long moment, they just stood there, in the silence of the fading day, the weight of what had just happened hanging in the air. Neither of them knew what would come next, but one thing was certain, they were no longer just employer and employee, no longer just two men working together on a ranch. What had started as a simple meeting was now something far more complicated, something that neither of them could escape. And somehow, neither of them wanted to. The days following their kiss were a whirlwind of emotions and stolen glances. Liam and Austin found themselves drawn to each other in ways they couldn't control. They worked side by side on the ranch, their connection deepening with every moment spent together. One evening, while tending to the horses, their hands brushed again. This time, neither pulled away. In the quiet of the barn, Liam spoke softly. I've never felt like this before. Austin smiled, his voice equally tender. Neither have I. But I'm not running anymore. The unspoken promise between them lingered, filling the barn with a sense of hope. Their relationship couldn't stay hidden for long. Rumors began to swirl among the ranch hands, and Liam knew they had to address it. One evening, over dinner, Liam and Austin sat down with the staff. Austin and I are together, Liam said plainly, his tone firm but calm. The room fell silent, then one of the older hands spoke up. Long as the ranch runs smooth, it's no business of ours. Relief washed over them both, and for the first time, they felt free. Months passed and their love only grew stronger. They worked tirelessly to expand the ranch, their shared dreams driving them forward. Together, they brought new life to Wild Ridge Ranch, turning it into a thriving sanctuary for horses and their own love. Liam often found himself watching Austin, marveling at the way this man had changed his world. I don't know what I did to deserve you, Liam said one evening. Austin laughed, pulling him close. You didn't have to do anything, you just had to be you. On a warm spring morning, Liam and Austin saddled up their horses, riding side by side across the open fields. The sun was high, the world around them alive with the sounds of nature. They paused on a hilltop, gazing out at the land they had built together. Liam turned to Austin, a soft smile on his face. This is our life now. Together. Austin reached for Liam's hand, their fingers intertwining. Always. And as they rode off into the horizon, it wasn't just the ranch they were leaving behind. It was their old lives, replaced by a future they had chosen to build together. Hey, everyone. Let's talk. What did you think about this heartwarming story between Liam and Austin? Their connection, the challenges they faced, and that beautiful ending. Did it touch you in any way? We'd love to hear from you. Leave a rating from 1 to 10 in the comments and share what moved you the most about their journey. Your feedback means so much to us. And don't forget to follow the channel and subscribe to become an exclusive member. By subscribing, you'll get early access to more stories like this, filled with romance, emotion, and a touch of passion that you won't want to miss. We can't wait to hear your thoughts. Let's build a community where love always wins. Like, comment, and share. Your support makes all the difference.